In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, I hereby convene this meeting of the Board of Directors of the LCRA Transmission Services Corporation. Today is Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024, and the time is, what time is it? I think it's 11:01 or 11:03. Quorum is present. The General Counsel will record each director is in attendance. First item is comments from the public. Do you have anyone to speak on TSC? All right, seeing we have none, we will have our Chief Operating Officer update, Ms. Senecal. Good morning.
All right, good morning, Chair Timmerman and members of the board. I'd like to start off this morning by thanking all the people at LCRA in transmission and beyond, whose work led to the Public Utility Commission of Texas approving LCRA Transmission Services Corporation's rate case application. As you know, the PUC on October 24th approved the petition LCRA TSC filed last November to update our wholesale transmission, transformation, and metering rates. This is important as we continue investing in our transmission system to meet customer needs. Numerous teams at LCRA, including legal, regulatory affairs, external affairs, transmission, finance, human resources, and more, worked extremely diligently and effectively on that rate case. If we have people in the room, and I'm certain that we do, who were involved in this tremendous effort, please stand so that we can recognize you. All right, next, I'd like to provide an update on LCRA TSC's successful summer 2024 ERCOT inspections. Between June and September, transmission hosted ERCOT inspectors at 30 of our substation facilities to demonstrate that all summer weather preparation measures were completed. To maintain compliance and as part of our continuous ongoing maintenance programs, we conduct inspections ourselves to verify optimal operational conditions, record pass-fail conditions, and we have field personnel perform immediate repairs when necessary. As a result of staff's ongoing efforts, ERCOT found no issues of material noncompliance with PUC regulations during its summer season inspections of our substations. Here are some key takeaways. Inspectors made multiple comments about the cleanliness of our substations, equipment condition, and personnel engagement, noting we rank among the best of the transmission service providers. Our practices and procedures will be discussed in an ERCOT best practices manual currently in development. And LCRA TSC continues to set the standard for equipment maintenance and inspection. In addition to preparing for summer, and despite today's weather, we also prepare for the winter. As part of our regulatory requirements, LCRA TSC conducts a thorough analysis of all our transmission assets to help ensure they operate as designed, including in the event of severe winter weather conditions. We have emergency operations plans in place to handle severe weather events, and our personnel are trained in how to carry out those plans. Our winter preparedness plans include performing preventative maintenance, purchasing cold weather related supplies, such as footwear traction devices, de-icing spray and insulated gloves, and also making sure our staff is trained in how to maintain our transmission assets reliably and how to respond in case of an emergency. We conduct drills that focus on significant weather events to practice how we would respond and perform major transmission line restoration. These drills occur both transmission-wide and within specific work groups, such as transmission field services or field operations. Groups across LCRA participate in the drills, training, and other preparations, which include LCRA's chief meteorologist, famous Bob Rose, giving a seasonal weather outlook, cybersecurity staff discussing emerging threats, and telecommunications employees providing training on handheld radios we might need to use during emergencies. I'll next provide some highlights of how we engage with our wholesale transmission customers. We host several transmission customer events throughout the year. These well-organized, informative meetings promote collaboration and education across our customer groups. Our collaborative operations and planning forum is a quarterly meeting for all transmission customers. This forum typically draws 40 to 50 people and covers topics related to operations, planning, regulatory and compliance, and other matters of mutual interest. We recently celebrated our 50th COP meeting, marking more than 12 years of successful collaboration. Another key event for all transmission customers is our Substation Transmission Operations Reliability and Maintenance Meeting, which is more easily referred to as STORM. The meeting topics address all areas represented in the STORM acronym, and our most recent event attracted more than 180 participants. We also host a Municipal Electric Service Association, or MESA, conference that's solely for municipal transmission customers. In addition to covering topics similar to those we discussed at the STORM meeting, MESA also includes vendor presentations. Our 2024 MESA meeting drew more than 200 attendees and featured more than 30 vendor displays. All three events are planned and hosted by our transmission customer relations and transmission planning staff with help from meeting services, communications, and guest speakers across the organization. We appreciate everyone's efforts in making these events successful. To close, I'd like to highlight some new technology we're using to enhance operational efficiency. We recently deployed 2 new internally developed applications that improve situational awareness, assess operational risk, communicate and track system and customer outages, and more efficiently manage outage restoration and recovery efforts. The first tool is a common operating picture that compiles current and forecast weather, fire, system loading, and other operational data into a single dashboard superimposed on our transmission system infrastructure. The second tool is an outage management system that provides comprehensive visibility of system, component, and customer outages, including real-time restoration status updates. Both of these applications represent the innovative work of our in-house team members within transmission and finance. Chair Timmerman and members of the board, this concludes my remarks. I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Okay. Not much going on in transmission.
As usual.
As usual. First of all, I'd like to say once again, congratulations on the rate case. I mean, one more time. Phil, Kristen, Tom, all the staff that have been involved in that. What a successful case. I can't remember anything going so smooth. And it's all because of preparation. And I'm sure our application, I know how extensive it was. And it was clearly well received by the PUC, and congratulations, and what a job well done. So once again, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Kristen? All right, well, that brings us to our consent agenda, and we have only one item, and that's our minutes. Do we have a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, brings us to our action items. First item is capital improvement project approval. Mr. Kellner.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Timmerman and board members. Agenda item 3, capital improvement project approval, includes one service reliability project, the Edge Firewall FY23 telecom upgrade. This project will upgrade network equipment at multiple locations where the LCRA TSC transport network operates. These devices are located at the outer perimeter of the transport network and secure incoming and outgoing data traffic. The new standard firewall design will be installed at each location, as well as new management software. Recommended project completion date is June 30th, 2025, the end of FY25. LCRA TSC regular rates will fund the project cost estimated at $2 million, subject to completion of the project and approval by the Public Utility Commission of Texas. You have to answer any questions on this project.
Any questions? All right, do we have a motion? So moved. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, brings us to our Next item, number 4, the acquisition of interest in real property and use of eminent domain in Caldwell and Fayette counties. When I first looked at this, I was going, wow, we have a lot of eminent domain coming up, and I know we do. We have many projects that haven't been said. Just because we may approve eminent domain doesn't mean we go through with it. Matter of fact, in very few cases, we do. So anyway, with that, I'll hear your presentation.
Very true, very true. Good morning, Chair Timmerman and board members. The first real estate agenda item before you is a request for the authorization for the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire needed easement rights in Caldwell and Fayette counties for the Fayette Power Project Yard 2 to Lytton Springs Transmission Line Overhaul Project. This project will help ensure the continued reliable transmission of electric energy on the FPP Yard 2 to Lytton Springs Transmission Line, T255. If you turn to page 12 of your book, you will note the Exhibit A vicinity map. I've learned that some of the scales on the vicinity maps in today's items are a bit off. And so to give you some context of how long this project is, this line is actually 61.12 miles. The request before you includes 3 easement amendments required for the project. And as part of this overhaul project, we're amending these easements generally to address reconstruction and to remove structure limitations in our current easements. To help ensure that the project is completed on schedule, we seek board authorization to proceed with condemnation only if an agreement with each landowner cannot be reached. Initial offers have been made to each landowner based on third-party appraisals, and of course, we will continue to negotiate with each landowner to successfully acquire the needed interest in the real property. Staff recommends approval of this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Do we have a motion? David, so moved. And do we have a second? Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Brings us to item number 5, real interest property eminent domain in Eastland County.
The next real estate item before you is again a request for authorization for the use of power of eminent domain to acquire needed easement rights in Eastland County for the Leon Switch to Putnam Transmission Line Overhaul Project. This project will also ensure the continued reliable transmission of electric energy on the Leon Switch to Putnam Transmission Line, T727. And for additional context, this line is 8.9 miles in length. The request before you in this item includes 14 easement amendments required for the project. And as part of this overhaul project, we're amending generally to remove structure type limitations in our current easements. To help ensure that this project is completed on schedule, we seek board authorization to proceed with condemnation only if an agreement cannot be reached. Again, initial offers have been made to each landowner based on third-party appraisals, and we will continue to negotiate using eminent domain only as a last resort. Staff recommends approval of this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So this is, a landowner may have said, we only want you to use wooden structures, or you can't do a structure that's taller than whatever, and so you're not actually trying to acquire any more land, it's just the...
That's exactly right. Yes, these current easements date back all the way to the 1920s, and they do limit it to, they limit the structure type to H-frame structures. So we're amending to get that out so that we have a little bit more flexibility in the structure type that we utilize. But to finalize that thought, yes, no new right-of-way is included in any of these items, in this item in particular.
I would say it's also important to mention that the reason we need to do that is design standards have changed, requirements have changed, and so really this is allowing us to bring those structures up to what is really standard for today and what's needed for that line.
And if we don't fix it, we're in trouble, both operationally from a reliability resilience standpoint, but also I have to sign these documents that say we're doing all the right things to rebuild. I don't look very good in orange, so.
Just curious, how do they, how does an appraiser evaluate going from a H-frame wooden structure to a larger, more structural metal structure? How how do you evaluate the value of that change? Just kind of curious.
Absolutely. Usually appraisers will apply a certain percentage of the underlying fee value of the property for any additional rights that we're acquiring. So they use methodology of a certain percentage would then be added, and we would pay that in order to secure those additional rights.
Yeah, I noticed the values are fairly low, as I would expect them to be.
Yeah, and that is consistently something we see when we're targeting very specific rights that maybe our easements are deficient in.
Okay, do we, any other questions, or we have a motion? Motion second? Motion second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Brings us to item number 6, eminent domain in Upton County.
I'm going to jump in for a second to help on this one, and then let the professional do the work. This is a project, combine these next two, that are about 88 miles in length. This is a line that the PUC has already selected. So the Public Utility Commission has said, this is where this line is going to go. Our value in this project is probably north of $1 billion by the time we all do this. And in the earlier points, we do not want nor plan to use eminent domain unless we have to. Having said that, this is a project the PUC has already picked a line for again for the CCN and where it needs to go. And we need to be in front of this from a planning standpoint to acquire the real estate in order for us to go do this. So this is probably the most substantial amount of land total we've had a packet on like this. And next time we were talking to Lee, we're probably gonna do some electronic stuff as well, because we use a lot of trees for this book, but we need y'all to see what was going on with it and all the parcels involved. So this allows Kristen and Chris and the team and a planning function to go ahead and get started, because this project will take a while, and this is part of a much larger called Permian Basin project for the state, which is probably north of, what, 10 billion all in by the time we're setting that. We have about 10% of that, maybe more, depending on which line style and size they use. And this will be ongoing for the next 4 or 5 years, we think, as the PUC has directed it to address the oil and gas sector of the state. So there's a high demand for power out there for production, and these lines will help support that. Did I miss anything from y'all's standpoint on that? Great. Mark, please, you bet.
And this is a brand-new line,
Yes,
going across Greenfield.
this is Greenfield.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. This item and the following are brand-new lines. So this item before you is a request for the authorization for the use of power of domain in Upton County in support of the Bearcat to North McCamey Transmission Line Addition Project, T788 and T789. The project, as Phil mentioned, is the first of 2 LCRA Transmission Services Corporation projects as part of the second phase of the larger Electric Reliability Council of Texas Delaware Basin Load Integration Study. Part of that study is, of course, or the study is intended to serve the increased loads driven by oil and gas production in the Delaware Basin region. The Public Utility Commission of Texas approved our joint certificate of convenience and necessity application with Wind Energy Transmission Texas for the Bearcat to North McCamey Transmission Line Addition project in November of 2023. If you turn to page 57, Exhibit A, you will see this is one of the maps where the scale is a bit off. The map illustrated here illustrates the LCRA portion of that greater project, where we have 34 miles that LCRA is responsible for constructing and operating of that larger 68-mile project. The request before you includes 28 easements required for the LCRA TSC portion of the project. And we're bringing you the entire project now that we've received the legal descriptions for these easements. But it is not an indication of having to utilize eminent domain for each of these needed parcels. We're trying to get ahead of that project timeline, as Phil mentioned. Initial offers will go out to each landowner based on third-party appraisals, and of course, we will continue to negotiate for the needed easements to support the project. Staff recommends, the real property estimated values included in this item are just under $587,000, and that was included in the board-approved budget for the project. Staff recommends approval of this item, and I'm happy to answer any questions on this item.
So on the Exhibit A map, where's the skip between number 5 and 7? Is that?
That is a good catch, and that is because the survey on that parcel is delayed slightly due to some complex title issues. So worst case, we may approach the board again with the eminent domain authority once that legal description is delivered. But hopefully, you may never see it if we're able to successfully negotiate with that landowner. Good catch.
Okay, any other questions? All right, do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item number 7, acquisition of interest in real property, eminent domain in Upton Crane. Joe Crane? Is that Joe Crane? Joe Crane County? Crane and Ward County.
The final real estate agenda item before you is a request again for the authorization for the use of the power of eminent domain in Upton, Crane, and Ward counties in support of the North McCamey to Sand Lake Transmission Line Addition Project, T786 and T787. This project is the second of the 2 LCRA Transmission Services Corporation projects as part of the second phase of the larger ERCOT Delaware Basin Load Integration Study, which is intended to serve the increased electric needs in the Delaware Basin. The Public Utility Commission of Texas approved our joint certificate of convenience and necessity application with Encore Electric Delivery Company for the North McCamey to Sand Lake Transmission Line Addition Project in November of 2023. If you turn to page 154, Exhibit A, that will illustrate the LCRA portion of the line, which is 44 miles in length of the 88-mile overall project. The request before you includes 33 easements required for the LCRA TSC portion of the project. And again, we're bringing these to you now that we have legal descriptions finalized for the project. The real property estimated value included in this item is just over $800,000, and that was included in the board-approved budget for the project. Initial offers will be made to landowners based on third-party appraisals, and staff will continue to negotiate with each landowner for the purchase of the needed easement. We do seek board authorization to proceed with condemnation only in the small instance where an agreement cannot be reached. Staff recommends approval of this item. I'm happy to discuss any questions you might have.
When do we hope to get started on these projects?
So the construction activities are slated to start beginning in April of 25, with energization
25.
completing in June of 26.
Yep, that's why we're getting ahead of it.
We're doing our best, yes, sir.
So on page 191, of the multiple landowners, you have to get approval from each and every one of those?
We sure do. We sure do. In fact, yeah,
Hang in there.
there are about 160 different landowners of varying ownership interests across this line. You can see that ownership in this part of the world is pretty complicated. And that brings up another point. You know, if sometimes we will rely on the power of eminent domain if we are unable to locate an owner by utilizing a condemnation through publication. So there's various reasons for just not being able to negotiate, you know, in terms of dollar figures or rights. It could be just to get it, to locate the landowner if that can't be found, and to get that right.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Lee, you pick who seconded it. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. We do not need to go into executive session for LCRA TSC, so we will conclude our business and we will adjourn at 11:28.